great future. We're talking real money.
Have you ever noticed that every single week it seems like there's another Friday? Just like that. Just another Friday. Hi, it's another Friday, and that means, here on Talking Real Money anyway, that means your questions. The ones you spoke. The ones that you used your mic on your phone or your computer to record at talkingrealmoney.com on the contact form. And then every Friday on the podcast, I pull out 4, 5, 6 of them, depending on how many we have, and try to give you the best answers I possibly can to your burning money questions. I'm Don McDonald, by the way, and I do the Friday podcast most of the time. Sometimes Tom does it with Roxy, but most of the time it's me. And thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And please send your questions in at talkingrealmoney.com on the contact form and speak them. You can type them too if you really want. All right, let's get started. Here's our first question.
Hey, Tom and Don. This is Paul from Virginia. I have a real quick question for you. I have pensions. I'm 65 years old. I plan to retire at 68. I have pensions that I think between them and Social Security will take care of my wife and I with all of our expenses and some. So my investments are purely those. And my question is, with pensions covering all of our expenses, our expected expenses, is there a need to invest in bonds at all in my investment portfolio? So just like to hear your thoughts on that. Love what you do, and I appreciate anything you can say about this topic. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, it comes back to this issue of everything being truly personal. There is not one universal answer that applies to every investor or every person out there. Not everyone should have bonds in their portfolio, but a lot of people should, and not for the reason you think. It has nothing to do with providing an income. I think it's great that your income is covered. That gives you lots of security, but it doesn't mean you must take more risk with your portfolio. We assume that if we don't need the money, we might as well take the most risk possible, but it's not a matter of winning some money game in the end. You've got to do what's right for you and your situation and your psyche. And that's an often overlooked part of the equation. How comfortable are you with dramatic losses? Because I guarantee at some point in the future, this is the only thing I can guarantee, is that stocks are going to go down someday. And when they go down, they're not just going to go down a little, they're going to go down a lot. And they're going to scare people to death. And there'll be people talking about how this is the end of the world. You should sell everything and put it all in gold. And they usually say that right at the worst possible moment for the market, right before it goes up. So you can't win by trying to play a game. You have to build the portfolio to be right for you ahead of time. And for most people, that means fixed income securities, not for the income, but for the fixed part, the semi-stability, the stability to semi-stability of having securities in the portfolio that do not, or have not in the past anyway, and there's no reason why they should in the future, fluctuate like stocks do. Bonds fluctuate, yes, but they have never fluctuated like stocks fluctuate. Never. So yeah, you should probably have them. One way to determine whether you should or not, and this is why we pick up the tab for this, there's go to talkingrealmoney.com and click on the risk quiz, RISQUIZ. It's 10 minutes. Take that. There's no obligation. There's no cost, no nothing. You just go in there, you take that, and then you get a report saying, you might want to have more bonds. Or you might want to have less. Depends. Thanks for your question. I do so appreciate it. And please, if you have one, go to talkingrealmoney.com, click on the Contact Us button there in the corner, and record it. Let's go to the next one.
Hello, Don. This is Bob in Kansas City, not to be confused with Crypto Bob. I really enjoyed listening to your podcast. I found your program very informative and educational, and the humor that you and Tom are able to incorporate into your program makes it very entertaining as well. I have an investment question, but before I ask my question, I have a comment and a rather unusual request that you may or may not be able to do. On occasion, you mention that Colorado is your home state. Well, Colorado is also my home state, having been born and raised there. And you also mentioned that during the 90s, you were on air at KOA in Denver. As I was growing up in the Denver area in the 70s, KOA was my go-to station. It had a strong signal. I could pick it up just about anywhere in the state. It was the home station for the Denver Broncos. It had talk radio and had up-to-date news coverage. And one of the news announcers was a guy by the name of Duke King. And not only did he have a prestigious name, but he had a distinguished and baritone voice, such as yourself. Since his time at KOA was before yours, I doubt your paths even crossed with his. What I remember most, however, about him was his tagline for the news. He would recite, "You are listening to Radio 85 KOA in Denver, the 50,000-watt voice of the West." So my request is, if you could recite his tagline for me, it would bring back some fond memories and give me a big chuckle.
Well, gee, that's the first time in a long time I've had a request to do something. And, you know, I went and looked. I can't find any recordings of Duke King from that time frame. Now, I was there in the 80s, 86, 87. But sure, here we go. I'm gonna give you my best period announcer from KOA. You are listening to Radio 85 KOA Denver, the 50,000-watt voice of the West. When I was there, we were the voice of the Rockies, but it was voice of the West, I guess, before. So, yeah, as a matter of fact, my regular slot was 2 to 6 p.m. Sundays. That was what I was relegated to, which meant I wasn't on for a pretty decent chunk of the year because I was preempted by the Broncos. All right, now to your question.
My daughter is 38 and a hardworking middle school teacher here in the suburban area of Kansas City. And much to my disappointment, her school district has selected a company known as Corebridge to administer their 403B program. I was not familiar with them, but looked into it, and they appear to have been a spinoff from AIG in 2022, and I don't know if you have any comments on that. So I also looked up Corebridge on 403B Wise, and as you would expect, they have a very poor rating. Their website shows that they are primarily involved in insurance and annuities. And fortunately, she hasn't been sucked into an annuity by Corebridge. So her advisor from Corebridge, and I'm using that term very loosely, has her invested in 8 different funds, pretty much evenly distributed with no particular allocation. So my question is, I'm not sure she needs all these funds, and I need some advice on the allocations of the ones we should select. So the first fund looks pretty good, really. Fidelity Index 500, FXAIX, with only 1 basis point. There is only one international fund available, MGRDX, and there is one bond fund, BAGIX. It has a rather high, in my opinion, cost with 30 basis points. And so with her age, and I think she should look outside of her 403B for her bond allocation, and I could help her with that on something else. There is one large cap value fund, NRLCX, one mid cap growth fund, JMGMX, one mid cap value fund, MVCKX, one small cap growth fund, PLKGX, and one small cap value fund, DFFVX. So if you could help me which fund she should select and what the allocations would be, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks for all you do. Have a good day.
Well, let's make this simple, shall we? Now, Corebridge has two different kinds of products. They have the annuity product, which was the old VALIC staple when they were VALIC. I guess they've modernized their choices now because they also have the second choice, which is the mutual fund choices. Now, I don't know what their contract fees or other fees are. I don't have those because those are specific to the plan. But it looks to me like they have some pretty decent, no-load, index-style products, and I would just keep it so simple. I could keep it as simple as this: the Vanguard Target Retirement Fund. Maybe the 2055 or the 2060, which are about 85 to 90% equity, so they're very aggressive at this point in life, and then they glide path and become more conservative. I could certainly see her just doing that. Keep it simple. Put it in the target, then she doesn't have to rebalance every year. The rebalancing is all done for her. Life is easy. And then maybe later get an IRA where you can get some more eclectic stuff that's a little easier to get and build a portfolio of. I might be tempted, if we want to swing a little bit more value tilt. I was shocked to see DFFVX in your list. That's the Dimensional Targeted Value Fund. And that'll give you a value tilt. So that's kind of cool. You could go, say, 90% in the Target Retirement 2050 or 2055, and to keep it a little more conservative, and then throw 10% at DFFVX. But is that essential? Is it going to add a lot? No, it's not. It's not going to add a lot. It's not going to make a big difference. It's going to be fractional. And at this point, simplicity is probably her friend. So I would really be tempted to go 100% Vanguard Target 2055-ish retirement fund. And thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Let's go to the next one.
Hey, Don. This is Curtis from Minnesota. I just listened to a podcast talking to Bill Bengen, and he was suggesting that the 4% rule is outdated and it's extremely conservative. And now he's suggesting that the average person can withdraw more out of their retirement account. He's basing this on higher diversification and the fact that his 4.7% rule or 4% rule was based on worst case scenario. And he's saying in several interviews that, the average person can go a lot higher than that. He mentioned even as high as 8% and being a safe withdrawal rate. If you could comment on that, that'd be great. Thanks.
Well, Bill Bengen, he's the father of the 4% rule, who said 4% plus inflation is sustainable, has been and likely will be sustainable in most scenarios, and it's stuck. And there have been all kinds of people who've run numbers and played with it and done all kinds of things. And some people say less than 4%. Some people say a little more than 4%. Some people like us say, yeah, you could do that, or you can go with the flexible distribution at about 5%. But the reality is, I don't know specifically what he's referring to. If you're saying 8%, like you had $1 million and you take out $80,000 the first year, and then you adjust for inflation after that. You always add inflation, so it's $80,000 plus inflation. That portfolio, a 60-40 portfolio, I run the numbers, that portfolio only survives about 10% of the time. In other words, over a 30-year period, I should have said. That means that over 30 years, you have a 90% chance of running out of money before you run out of life if you live till 95, 65 to 95. So I don't know what he's basing this on, but this is all getting crazy. We're trying to find an absolute when absolutes are impossible to know because the future is unknowable. We can only run simulations based on the past and go, well, this kind of worked. I mean, literally, if you use the 8% rule flexible, I ran this. If you had $1 million, you take 8% of the portfolio value out at the beginning of each year, you cannot run out of money. However, the fact that you're taking 8% out every year means the bad years will be even worse. That's why we came up with 5%. It's a little more than 4. You can't run out of money. You technically cannot run out if you only take 5% of the portfolio each year. Can't do it. But, people don't follow rules exactly. So would I pay much attention? No. What you have to do is figure out what is going to work for you. And if you have to stretch much past that 4 or 5% withdrawal rate, and if it's the fixed amount plus inflation, any more than about 4, then you start looking at scenarios in which you're likely to run into trouble. More likely. The more you take out, the more likely it is you're going to have problems. So that's my take on it. And it's all personal, like everything else. Send your questions in to us at talkingrealmoney.com on the contact form. It's really easy to do. You can type them or you can speak them. And I think I still have 2 more, so let's get going.
Tom and Don, how do I handle an IRA inheritance? I just received $820K in a beneficiary IRA. I know that I need to pull the money out in 10 years. Do I owe tax on the $820K that I just inherited? It's currently parked in a money market fund at Fidelity, but my plan is to broadly invest it, probably in a 60-40 split. So am I going to get taxed on the money that comes out over the next 10 years? I don't need the money for anything right away. I certainly don't need it for retirement. I've already got that covered. And retirement's a couple years down the road. I really was thinking I might just take the money and put it towards a new house. I was planning on buying a house anyway. This is just going to speed up the process. What I'm thinking is maybe pulling $80K out per year. So I guess my question really is the tax question. Am I getting taxed on the 820, or am I getting taxed on the amount that I pull out every year for the next 10 years? I mean, if the money grows, I guess I pay more tax. But if for some reason the account goes in the other direction and it's valued at less than what originally went in there, will I wind up paying less in tax? I don't care either way. I just want to know what I'm being taxed on. Thanks for your help. I really enjoy the show.
Thanks for the question. You get taxed on whatever it is you withdraw in that year. You have 10 years to draw the account down completely, to draw it all the way down, take all the money out. So if you took $80,000 out this year, you would pay taxes only on that $80,000. Now, if the account keeps growing, the amount you're going to need to take out is going to go up. So your taxes will go up because it has to be withdrawn within that 10-year period. If you took it out all at once and you're married filing jointly, well, even if you're single or married filing jointly, you're going to kick yourself into the 37% tax bracket. So you want to do a little tax planning, because bear in mind, if you're a couple filing jointly and you make $100,000 a year, your marginal bracket on this $80,000 or whatever it is you're going to take out every year is going to be 22%. Big difference between 22% and 37%. You get to keep a lot more money if you plan this out properly. So this is why we're such pains about the whole plan thing. Oh, look, Tom's calling me, so I'm going to take a break from recording, and we'll be right back. Due to the magic of editing, see, I'm right back. He was just calling to discuss show topics for an upcoming episode. There, that was it. All right, I hope I answered that question. I think I did. You got to do some planning. And if my count is correct, we are down to our last question of the day. Let's get it.
Tom and Don, what is the difference between a security, as in Securities Exchange Commission, and an equity, as in equity portfolio? Thanks.
Well, this is an easy question to end the show, but I get why you'd not understand it, because security is a broader term. It defines a whole category of things that people invest in. So equities are a security. All securities are not equities. A bond is a security. A futures contract is a security. An option is a security. A mutual fund is a security. A real estate investment trust is a security. A limited partnership can be a security. So it's all of the various investment vehicles that are out there and traded that fall under the definition of security and therefore under the purview of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which was created in the wake of rampant speculation and lots of lying and, people being people and ripping everybody off. But security is broad. Equity is very specific. And then under equities, there are different kinds of equities. So it's a tree of definitions that nest in other definitions, security being the broadest one at the top. Thanks for your question. Thank you for all the great questions and comments and requests. At least they're not for songs. Can't do songs. We're not allowed to do songs. You play a song on a podcast, and suddenly life becomes ridiculously complicated because no one anywhere really knows how to license songs on podcasts. It's a very confusing thing. You almost have to go to the artist and negotiate a license. So you just don't play. Anybody who plays music on a podcast, they're asking for trouble. You just are asking for trouble. Don't do it. Don't play copyright stuff at all. And that's something we don't do unless it's fair use, like for commentary purposes. Then we can play stuff. If we were commenting on the song, I guess we could play it, but it'd be a big stretch for a money show. Send your questions in at talkingrealmoney.com on the contact form. Speak them or type them. And if you'd like, you can call us on Saturdays at 855-935-TALK, starting at 3 p.m. when we do a radio show on Northwest News Radio in Seattle that becomes the Tuesday and Wednesday podcast usually. Thank you so much for being there. Please tell folks about the program. The more, literally, the merrier. Spread the word. And take good care of yourselves. We'll talk to you really soon. I'm Don, and I'm talking real money.
The opinions and views expressed on this podcast were current on the date recorded. Opinions, estimates, forecasts, and statements of financial market trends that are based on current market conditions constitute our judgment and are subject to change without notice, including any forward-looking estimates or statements which are based on certain expectations and assumptions. Although information and opinions given have been obtained from or based on sources believed to be reliable, no warranty or representation is made as to their correctness, completeness, or accuracy. Information presented on the podcast is not personalized investment advice from Appellate Wealth. The views and strategies described may not be suitable for everyone. This podcast does not identify all the risks, direct or indirect, or other considerations which might be material to you when entering any financial transaction. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and profitable results cannot be guaranteed. We hope you realize that the information provided on Talking Real Money is for informational, educational, and hopefully enjoyable purposes only. The podcast is not trying to get you to buy or sell any financial products or securities. Instead, the program is provided as a public service by Appellate Wealth, a fee-only registered investment advisor. Please see Appellate Wealth's ADV Part 2A on our website for information regarding Appellate's fees and services. Appellate Capital, LLC, DBA Appellate Wealth, is an investment advisory firm registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The firm only transacts business in the states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration with the SEC or any state securities authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Appellate does not provide tax or legal advice, and nothing either stated or implied here should be inferred as providing such advice. Thanks for listening, and please visit TalkingRealMoney.com for more information and important disclosure related to performance of any specific index or fund quoted in this podcast. And the lawyers get richer.